everything with Arizona. The shows we played, like the label signing, the records, the albums, the experiences, the opportunities, like all that stuff basically went from 0 to 100 in 2015 or so, and hasn't stopped, and all of it's been a surprise. Life is the things that happen to you. I think half of it is in your control and half of it's chance. The part that we did control of it, we did it wholeheartedly. Like we took years of being friends and working on music production stuff together, and just like all sort of shit, and like songwriting, and we sat down and said, like, we're just gonna make some of the best stuff that we think we can do.
Give it a year, I bet they'll call you a genius. On today's episode is Arizona. Arizona is an American pop rock and electro-pop band from New Jersey, currently signed to Fueled by Ramen. Their songs have racked up 500 million streams on Spotify alone, and they've headlined some of the world's biggest festivals, including South by Southwest, the Governor's Ball, and Lollapalooza. Please welcome Arizona. This
Howdy.
is Zach, the singer.
Howdy.
So stoked to have you. The show is really about the risk taken, the mountains climbed, and the victories behind who you are today. And I love to start off by where you started. Like, what was your first, like, I want to be this when I grew up?
I was gonna be a pilot. I wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Navy, and I pursued that pretty hard, actually. It became something that wasn't necessarily viable for me at the time. That was pretty later in life, but I had a lot of different things kind of going on pretty consistently in life, but that was like the one thing I knew I really wanted to do. And then when I sort of found out that wasn't necessarily going to be what I was going to end up doing, I wasn't sure. I think what I ended up settling on, and this was the same summer that Arizona happened, was I was beginning to enroll, or trying to go through the process of getting into school to become a history teacher.
Cool.
So
I love history.
Arizona, yeah, same. And so like Arizona was like a fun little project we did during that summer, after what I'm sort of excluding was like a long set of years before that we had all dabbled together in like music production and working with other artists and doing a bunch of other stuff just for fun. And we don't necessarily really enjoy that anymore. Like working with other artists is cool, but it's not about that. It's just kind of more the circular motion that we're going in. It doesn't feel great. So we've never done stuff together. Mm-hmm. So we can sit down and do a project with just us, just creating for no reason, and it won't be a big deal. And it's obviously like people do that, like producers, like, I'm gonna go do my artist project, and like no one gives a shit.
Wait, where did your musical talent come from? Because your voice, I have to say, like the first time I heard your voice, it was like one of the coolest kids I knew played this song, and I was like, this voice is incredible. So you must have kind of known, just based off of like the texture of your voice, that you had.
No.
Really?
Fuck no.
What does that mean?
I never sang. I was never a singer. I was largely any singing I ever did was maybe on demos and stuff, that like I didn't have somebody there to like demo a song, so I would like do it and just kind of get away with like melodyning stuff here and there, but just light demo stuff. I mean, I grew up in a relatively musical environment, in the sense that like my dad liked like he loved music, so he'd always play lots of music in the car. He was a really good horn player. He played the trumpet.
Cool.
My mother played like a million instruments growing up, but like not when I was born, like not around the house or anything. But if you want to believe it's like genetic, which I don't think it is. I think it's a skill set. But I was definitely exposed to music. I liked music a lot, but producing was really just what I liked, because it was like computers and then like just making sounds come together. It was like two things that I just really enjoyed doing, but I never thought that like I was like a singer or anything. I never did any of that. So
but even production, I mean, like there is a skill set behind production that takes a bit of discipline. Like you can't just plop in front of Logic and throw something together. I mean, you'd have to be kind of a prodigy to be able to do that. So like what was the thought behind dabbling with production? Did you feel like it was a form of a video game that you could eventually like listen back to, or what did it feel like for you?
I think that's maybe kind of what it was. It's tough. I don't really know exactly what got me into that. I think I would come home and I had like a like a little Casio keyboard that you could like record stuff on and play it back. And I'd come home and play with that thing, and like the idea of being able to make cool sounds and then hear back what you did. I think that was kind of fun because music was sort of relaxing to me as a kid, and I think the more I got older and got into computers and stuff, like I realized there was like a whole big boy version of that you could do, and I was like, that's fucking sick. Like you can, you can really control that whole process and do pretty big stuff with that. So like, I think that interest kind of just evolved naturally.
So you didn't have any hopes of getting signed to a label because you're signed to arguably like the biggest label in the world.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, everything with Arizona, the shows we played, like the label signing, the records, the albums, the experiences, the opportunities, like all that stuff basically went from 0 to 100 in 2015 or so, and hasn't stopped, and all of it's been a surprise.
Wow.
Entirely.
Wow.
Which makes me honestly like one of the worst fucking candidates for it, because like people spend their whole lives like thinking about that, and I feel like I have so little in common with most of my peers in that regard, in the sense that like I didn't expect it, so I never like actively wanted it. It's not that I don't want it or don't appreciate it. Like it's awesome, and it's who I am now, but I didn't spend my life mentally preparing for this and grinding for this one particular thing. So getting it is interesting. I mean, sometimes life throws stuff at you that you don't want and you get in bad ways, and sometimes in good ways, and in this case it's been a real learning process for me.
I'm so intrigued by what you just said, which is in a way that it wasn't an expected or even like anticipated and desired life reality. So I'm curious what you think is the why behind why you were chosen. Like, how did this happen to you specifically?
Life is the things that happen to you. I think half of it is in your control, whether you take it or not, right? Like things you do, and half of it's chance. Always. The part that we did control of it, I think we did it wholeheartedly. Like we took years of being friends and working on music production stuff together, and just like all sort of shit, and like songwriting, and we sat down and said like, we're just gonna make some of the best stuff that we think we can do. It was a pretty natural process, but we also, at the end of creating per se, like we thought to ourselves like, let's give it a package. Like let's put it together and make it look like it's a thing, just for fun, and we'll put it on the internet. Like we'll do it. Like if we're gonna do it, we'll do 100%. And it's not gonna work, but like it'll be fun. Like we'll just
You didn't put any thought into marketing. You just thought, I'm going to put it into the universe.
We did some fun things that I guess maybe you could say technically are like we did a cover of, at the time it was Bad Blood was like a big song. So we did a cover of that, and we did like a little
like
video.
Taylor Swift?
Yeah. And we shot a video of it. And we put it on his YouTube channel, our boy Josh Chomick, because he comes from the YouTube world. So we put it on his YouTube channel. We posted on Reddit and just like, hey guys, like we shot a cover. We're like not really a band, but it's like our first time doing something like this and whatever. And we uploaded some songs to SoundCloud with like a logo that didn't mean anything, with a name that didn't mean anything.
Which was Arizona.
Which was a joke. And Nate was wearing an Arizona iced tea hat, and Dave made fun of it and said, it doesn't matter what we call what we do. It's never going to be about that for us. Like it's going to be about other things, and so we can call it fucking any Arizona, and we'll put spaces in it, like make it all hipster or whatever, so it was
very hipster.
Everything was a joke, dude. Everything was kind of making fun of itself. We saw this whole thing as something that I think ultimately everybody else was kind of look at like as either something that was trying to be way too serious and just stupid, or like, yo, it's kind of tight because you guys didn't take it too seriously, and that's where it'll die. So we didn't. We just didn't think that response would go to the levels it went to, because then our manager now was just another kid like us, working in some industry, New York, and found the post on Reddit and hit us up. Jacob, hit us up on Reddit and was like, yo, this stuff's crazy. Like, you guys are great.
So he was like he was somebody you already knew.
No, he was a stranger on Reddit who was like, yo, I'm also in the tri-state area, and I also like, you know, for what it's worth, I'm kind of fucking sick of my life, and like I always wanted to kind of like manage music stuff, and like I'd be down to help you guys out if you want. And we were like, yo, like I don't know if that's worth it, but if you're down, like yeah, we can keep going and whatnot. And then so yeah, he took it upon himself to kind of like share some of the music with some like YouTube channels. Some of them liked it and picked it up.
Meaning they just like put it in their content, like their vlog or.
No. Like at the time, this was when Spotify was still kind of just becoming a big thing. And there was like, and still are, but there's like YouTube channels that are just dedicated to like posting cool new music and stuff. Some of them liked it. Mr. Suicide Cheap was a really big channel that put us on originally, which is like huge. It's like a big channel, and I guess because Spotify was kind of coming up around the same time, as like the stats would kind of creep into different parts of people's lives, I guess in the industry or whatever, they would like sort of monitor Spotify stats. And I think that we made a little bit of a bump, and some people reached out to us and were like, hey, like who are you guys, like shit's cool,
Like
heard
label
it.
people?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was just odd for us because we were like, all of this happened maybe in the course of 3 months.
No way.
Yeah.
From putting the music out. And you'd already had a full album written before you started releasing.
No, I think we had like 3 or 4 songs on SoundCloud.
Okay.
That we released like one at a time just for fun. That was really it. So I had really just, it was essentially like the beginning of this next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, before we get into like me going to school to be a history teacher, or Dave was working at Al Jazeera, Nate was in IT, like, we were like, before we really get settled into moving forward,
Yeah.
let's just do something fun over like the summer. So Dave like left his job, you know, for like the summer, and was like, I'm gonna take some time off. And they were like, cool, you know. We all just kind of hunkered down for like just that spring, summer, whatever it was, to finish these songs and come up with the stuff and put them on SoundCloud, and we did.
And when you were coming up with your first batch of music, were you being like super analytical about it? Were you like, you know what, we did like a 5-hour session today, I think the song is pretty good, let's just like keep this one? Like, how much of your material are you keeping and how much are you tossing?
Back then, no, we weren't analytical at all. Like, I think where we really dive into and this is still the case. I think where we really dive into the process more is the songwriting. Like I think we're really the most critical of ourselves when it comes to writing, because that's where that's where the real shit is, right? Like the songs themselves. But when it comes to like top lines and producing, like I feel like we kind of know what works because we did it for so long, in many different ways for many different people. So you find, you know, like, you know, if you make any one product for so long and in such large amounts, you eventually can just hold one and be like, this is a good one. You know what I mean? This is made pretty well, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of how we are as like producers and top liners. Like you just know what kind of works and doesn't, or what's workable and not workable, and that's how we approached it then. The important stuff to us, I think, is like the song, because you can produce a shitty song 90 ways, it's still kind of a shitty song, or like not. I mean, that's always, it's art, so
Sometimes
right.
production makes
So
a
it's
huge
always
difference.
subjective, I guess. But at the end of the day, like, you know, there are things that work and things that don't work. I think when it comes to connecting with a general, you know, audience,
Like you can hear the magic of a song with an acoustic guitar.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you sing a song, and you can hear like, oh wow, that's a great melody, awesome lyrics. Like it's just, you know, and you can make it 10 versions of that awesome song, and it's the same song.
It's interesting. Like, I went to music school in LA, and they're either trying to shape you into being like a cookie cutter version, like the Kelly Clarkson or an Ariana Grande or whatever, as a female pop singer, or they just make the idea of getting signed to label seem so rare and so difficult and so actually like toxic. Like they say, like labels are going to screw you over. There's like so much bad information on the internet, I've just found, and I found that that was also what was happening at my music school. And It seems like for you, it's almost been like a yellow brick road. Like this seems like
Kind of.
this is not even like the risky path in your life.
No. If you want to talk about, because that's relative, right?
Right.
Everybody's lives have different paths. This wasn't the risky one. Excuse me. This wasn't the riskiest one. Everything has risk. But it depends on who you are and how you mitigate it. That makes it bad or not so bad, right? So like, luck favors the prepared. So like, if you're somebody who's, really, really banking on one thing, and you're somebody that's not very good at adapting and whatnot, then a path for someone that would be somebody like that, incredibly risky, is not that big of a deal for somebody who has different qualities. So, and I'm not saying I do or don't. I think I have a mix of, we all have, I feel like, a mix of some qualities that make certain things a little bit safer than others and some things riskier than others. But for me, this wasn't the riskiest path to take. Yeah, and I think some of the information you're talking about, like everything, some of that's real, some of it's not. Is being signed to a label like a rare thing or a shitty thing? Kind of depends. It can be also probably not in some ways. Like we've had a pretty good experience.
Yeah.
I mean, labels in general are companies like anything else. They have people that show up and work hard. They have people that show up and fucking don't work hard. I mean, it's a company. It's not one entity.
Right.
There's no Mr. Label. Like there's a million people that go into a lot of this stuff. At least from my experience. I can't speak for anybody else, but the people that we've dealt with, there's usually one point of contact that is sort of the overarching person responsible for projects. Label deals are a little tricky, a little rough in today's world because of how fast the landscape is changing for both parties. But I think it does come down to how you think, because the way I feel like we approached this was, this career is going to make us like fucking no money at all, or it's going to be huge. That's the reality of being an artist on a label these days. If you're somebody that has your head screwed on straight, and a lot of artists, I feel like, have their managers for that purpose.
Do you still have the same manager?
Yeah.
The guy who reached out to you on Reddit?
Yeah, Jake. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And we've added, like Josh, Granados, we've added him. We've added a bunch of people to like the group over time. Some on the live touring front, some on the day-to-day front, and it's been, I think, a way to include all of our homies and friends,
Yeah.
So
it's such a fascinating story. I'm curious, I imagine that your first huge song was Oceans Away.
Huge, yeah.
That was the first time I discovered you, and like I said, I was like, whoa, there was something about that song and Crossed My Mind that it was just so different than anything I'd heard before. I find that sometimes people spend their entire lives trying to achieve some kind of momentum like that, like a hit song or some kind of huge success. Did you feel pressure or anxiety after that song to top it? Did you feel like there'd be judgment if your next song that came out wouldn't have been as good?
No.
You're such a healthy headspace. I love it.
I think, well, that's, yeah, I didn't really feel any pressure there because, like we feel like we have been given an opportunity larger than us. So Arizona is not who we are. Like Arizona is like a boat that we were given, and it was well equipped with a lot of great things that really benefit a lot of people that we've seen. Music helps people. Music has helped people for thousands of years. Arts is, the arts have always been there to help mediate the issues that people deal with in day-to-day life, always. A lot of people do it. Some get known for it. We are relatively known for it. Like we've been put in a position to where we're somebody who has some status in that regard. That's like a job or an opportunity that we've been given. So it's like, here's the boat. It has a whole bunch of supplies for the world on it, and go sail shore to shore and deliver it to people.
And the supplies are like the message behind the songs or the
everything.
Happiness they create.
Just everything. Just the moments that you're going to give people. The moment you described to me.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like the vessel. when I write a song. Sometimes I'm like,
You
I wish
are.
I didn't have to share this, but I feel like I do. And it's healing to me, and I know it'll be healing to other people. And it feels uncomfortable to release it because you feel, I think when you first write a song, it feels very much you. But then you
Yeah.
realize that the song is almost like this other thing that somebody can feel empathy or almost like intimacy with. Like they feel understood.
Yeah, they make
Yeah.
it their own almost.
Yeah.
You know, like Oceans Away is a great example of that. Like Oceans Away was a song that the guy I mentioned earlier, PJ, had begun to write because he was going through something similar, and then I helped finish write, and it was my father dying,
Wow.
and ditto for him. I think we were both going through that at the same time,
Wow.
relatively speaking, and that's what that song was about. I don't think, based on what I've heard, like from people, like I don't think that's what you would imagine when you
No,
hear that song.
I thought it was about a long distance relationship.
Clearly, and that's okay. So it's a way that, like you said, it can be. You're like, damn, did I say this? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, that line's a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I say that shit. That's like, I feel like I'm, I wouldn't say that to. What I'm saying in this song, some of this shit, like I would maybe talk about with like my homie,
Yeah.
but I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that shit and put it out, especially when you know you have an audience. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, like people are gonna hear this shit and then they're gonna, So
Yeah.
it is weird, but people have a tendency to just naturally make it their own.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about you really at that point. They create a thing or a meaning behind you or a song or anything in a way that they needed it, the way that it serves them.
Yeah.
That's a big opportunity. So in that context, that's how I feel about all this.
Yeah.
In that context, you're like, oh, did you feel pressure about not having, another bigger record, or, do you ever feel like it was difficult, or not difficult, or, my experience from start to finish or now or whatever. I don't care about that shit. I really don't. You could take it away tomorrow, and I never ordered it. So if it has to go back, the mature part of me would have to realize that, like, okay, well, it was fun.
I feel like you have so much wisdom, and also you have like a sense of serenity. Like you're very happy. Like I don't know if you're
Damn,
happy
I've been
go
called a
lucky.
lot of things. Serene isn't one of them.
That's hilarious. I mean, you're so free to just be you. You don't seem to have anxiety, worry, fear, all these things that like so many people I've talked to and interviewed have had. And I'm curious, like, do you have a meditative practice, spiritual practice? Do you journal? Like, where are you getting your depth and like lack of anxiety from?
Well, to be fair, I have massive problems with anxiety and fear
Interesting.
and all this stuff.
Huh.
I feel like the same way everyone else does. I think maybe some of mine comes from just earlier life and just growing up with a crazy life, and but to be fair, some of it doesn't. I think some of it is again just how you choose to, and realizing you have a choice in how you handle something, and how you handle something directly affects the way that you like operate as a person. And then knowing that the way you operate as a person will basically produce the results that you get. Like connecting the dots and having a bit of a wider perspective, I think helps me just realize that like acting a certain way and feeling a certain way are two different things. And that's not just anxiety, that's everything in life. You can feel a certain way, but acting and saying are things that don't come and go.
Yeah.
They get placed into the world and then they're there.
This is not even asking for a friend. This is just like asking for myself, because I think that sometimes you have a crazy dream and you're like, if I'm going to make this happen, it's going to be because of my blood, sweat, and tears. Like I have to, like there's almost like a sense of like needing to control yourself as much as possible, which comes in the form of like discipline, putting in the extra hours. And I almost feel like you have such a peace about whatever the outcome might be that it feels like you wake up, you do what you have to do, you're grateful for it, but you're actually not trying to control the outcome. Like it almost feels like you don't care if Arizona becomes like the biggest band in the world or if it stops. I could be totally wrong, but
You're absolutely right.
I'm right?
You're correct.
Yeah.
And that's why it's hard to say that without context, because if you say that to somebody, the first thing they imagine is you just don't give a shit. You're
I feel
not
like you give a shit.
thankful. I
Yeah.
absolutely give a shit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
care because it's what's in front of me. It's my life.
Yeah.
But that's the key.
Hmm.
It's about caring about what's in front of you, not necessarily what's ahead of you or what's behind you.
Mm-hmm.
People give too much effort into either trying to wrangle the future or change the past that they forget that the past was only created the way it was by the way you treated the present, and so will the future be.
Hmm.
So, like I care about what I have in front of me right now,
Yeah.
but what becomes of it, I feel like people's reaction to certain answers to that question, I feel like, are just a bit of a projection. I think of a common habit we all have, which is that we tend to underestimate nature.
Hmm.
Nature's not going to give you more than 50% of the control of anything.
Hmm.
It won't. As we said earlier, like you control about half of everything. Um, and if you think you have an ace up your sleeve sitting at the fucking table with nature, like your experience is too shallow.
Yeah.
Like you're just wrong. And that's not me telling you that. That's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
I feel like you only serve yourself to understand that, because the more you realize that, then I can only control half of what's going on. Then your fears and anxieties and whatever else get cut in half. It's unfortunate sometimes that you can
Yeah.
only control half of the things that happen, but
Huh.
it does mean that you get to sleep better at night if you're somebody that knows that I did everything I could.
Yeah. And you also have to take care of yourself as something that has priority. Sometimes I'm like, oh, let me just stay up an extra couple hours and get work done. But it's like, you have to trust the universe and also make sure that you're taking care of yourself along the way.
Yeah, universe. The universe isn't your friend. That's for damn sure.
No?
It's
I feel like it is.
it's not your friend. It's not your enemy. It just happens.
Ah,
It's not. It's not necessarily out to get you or out to help you. It's just it's a roll of dice.
love that.
You are the substance in which the dice gets tossed in. As water, sand, air. Whatever. Like you are the environment the dice get tossed in, but that's all you can control. So that being said, like staying up and working and being disciplined and putting in your 10,000 hours, so to speak, right? Like it's important. That's really important. You do something enough, you'll understand it and then get good at it. So
I do believe that with 10,000 hours, you can get excellent at everything, and clearly you've gotten excellent at your voice. But the fact that you weren't a kid thinking, oh my gosh, I have the world's best male vocal, I'm curious, like, did that feel like something you had to conquer? Like, how did you get from where you started to where you are now?
I never sang as a kid. I started in Arizona as somebody that had a really weird realization that I have to go do these on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Being a producer, like a behind the glass person, is great because you're like, I get to do some shit today. I'm out. That's it. I've done my part for this, and that's my full 100% piece. As an artist, like you have to do it, but then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again in all different mediums. You have to write it and then produce it and then perform it in a million different ways and settings and things like that. And that's where I do lack some of the things in common with my peers, because like they really love that.
Yeah.
Like they're born to do you feel like you're drawn to performing?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite feeling in the world.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We don't have that in common. Not in a way that it separates us, but it's just
Yeah.
something that like I don't know how that feels.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm missing that from my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Performing for me is something that I do because it's a part of the job, and I have, like every other part of the job, right? Like you find things that you enjoy that are fun. Like performing is fun. That's not like I'm like I hate fucking, but no, like performing is fun. There's parts of it that I like, parts of it that suck and are kind of nerve wracking and weird and also technical. Like because we do everything that like the reason that the reason our crew is so small is because all of us have skills to do all these different things, and so that just means that we're responsible for them. So there's a lot that goes wrong too, but I never like yearned for that. That was a big thing to overcome. Was like then you have to be the face, you have to be the performer, you have to be all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just your music. I don't get to just make it and upload it, and then it does everything for me. Like, you have to go be it.
There's a power in that, though. I opened for the Coldplay tour last year, and it's like I just moved to New York, so I didn't have a network of musicians here. So I just ended up deciding I'm going to produce this myself. I sang all the songs, wrote all the songs, choreographed all the things, created the outfit. Like 100% of the show was like,
right?
me, but it's also a lot of pressure, but it's a lot of like feeling of fulfillment at the end of the day where you're like, I pulled that off, and you learn to believe in yourself. I want to hit some rapid fire questions. Do you ever experience writer's block?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Great.
Constantly, more so than not.
Nice. Biggest dream?
Being in a Star Wars series.
Hardest part of your job?
Morale, I think. Yeah. Keeping it together, and like any other situation in life, the hardest part is remembering that, you know, a good attitude is only going to help.
Best advice you've ever received?
Do what you are really good at doing and find help for everything else.
What goes on in your brain during release day?
Not much on the day itself, but the week before, a shit ton. A lot goes into it. If you had to like write a song with like one person and like do a feature and maybe perform it at some point, like it's a song you own for the rest of your life, and you had to go on stage and perform it with that person, what would be like the dream collab?
Ironically, it's actually Coldplay.
Really?
Yeah, they've been my lifelong favorite band. I love his songs. They've been really healing to me. So it's ironic that opportunity was that specific opportunity.
That must have been sick.
Yeah, it was like a life highlight. Okay, what's your biggest fear?
I have a pretty healthy fear, I think, of not being conscious enough in certain moments, you know. Like, I'd like to do the right things every time, and I strive for that, and I think that you can, you know, being careful and being thoughtful, I think you can help that, but you're going to fuck it up sometimes, and I'm constantly afraid of losing too much of that awareness. It's a tough thing for people to turn bad things into good things. It's a really tough thing to do, and I think an easy way to do it is what you were saying. Like, people do like coming up with an idea for what they should be, and they just stick to it. It's easier if we had a script.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to do, and it's you know, it makes sense why some people do that, but it's not because they're shitty people or anything. It's just, who can blame them? I mean, look outside. It's a fucked up world. So having a script and sticking to it, and having a reference that you can go to when you need an answer for something makes sense. It's just, I think that I advocate for it being a healthier thing to do, to explore yourself, even if it means fucking up in the meantime sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I sometimes regret being too scared to regret fucking up, because I think fucking up is sometimes really healthy.
What was the biggest thing you fucked up your whole life?
The first time I fell in love, I was so naive. I really thought it would be like a Hallmark movie. Like, I thought anything somebody says, you gotta trust. Like, there's no reason to be suspicious. And I got like I learned that lesson the hard way. And I think I actually learned that lesson way too hard. So I think a large majority of my life after dating that person was pretty self-protective, to the point where if I saw a red flag in somebody, they would never know it, but I would think like, there's no way I'm gonna like let this person into my heart or pursue it. And I actually think that as humans, we all have baggage and scars and fears and things that we're working on. On one hand, it's helpful to make judgment calls quickly, and on the other hand, it's important to trust yourself to be able to heal and to be able to love, instead of just like not like putting up a bunch of boundaries. So I think I put too many walls up for too long a time. Anywho.
Anyway. No, that was a good one.
Thanks.
That was a good one. And for what it's worth, I think that's some people don't get a handle on that ever. Imagine you never like learning that or knowing that, you know, and unknowingly kind of walking through life with like either the wrong amount of protection of your own barriers, or none at all, or too much, and just never knowing that you have to regulate that. So that's a great thing. It's awesome.
3 things that you live by.
No straws and no white socks. Try to just treat people well. You know, I say try because sometimes you get frustrated with people and you do things that, you know, you're going to wish you maybe didn't say or do. But at the end of the day, like, try to treat people that maybe you wouldn't think about often well.
Okay. And then what would you tell your younger self?
My younger self, you know, he certainly had a lot of issues being okay with feeling things, emotions, you know, and kind of made him feel like it was going to prevent him from operating the way he was supposed to operate in a lot of situations. I'd probably tell that kid that you can still feel the way you're supposed to feel, and do what you have to do at the same time.
What's one thing under your covers that people don't know about you?
I'm like ranked really high compared to probably what most people I feel like would be in Rocket League, which is like a PC game.
I was ranked number 2 in Battlefield 1942 when I was a kid, so
Wait,
I'm a nerd.
is that a joke?
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
1942, like the OG 2001 Battlefield.
Yeah.
That's insane.
My brother and his friends would go to like a computer gaming place, and I would use his computer at home to play, and it'd always be my brother as number 1 and then me as number 2.
I fucking loved that game. I played the shit out of that game. You're like one of the first people I've met.
Whatever you call it.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
A joystick, like a flight stick, yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, that's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, sweet.
Hi, my name is Layla Perry, and you're watching Under the Covers, my show about the risks taken, the mountains climbed, and the victories behind some of the biggest game changers shaping culture and entertainment today. Jeremy Fogg!
Yes, chef?
Max Lugavere. Mari Llewellyn.
It's me!
Glenn Coco. Drum roll. Graham Bunn.
Scott Hansen.
Greatest intro ever.
Give it a year, I bet they'll call you a genius.